Welcome everyone to this second Aquarius data management webinar. I think I see that people are continuously joining, so we can start to save our time and to complete in time our meeting. I am Sisiona from HCMR, the Hellenic Center of Marine Research, and I am responsible for the training within Aquarius data management training activities. And as many of you know, this is the second webinar that we are organizing in the project to address all the granted transnational access projects, which started since last year, 2025, and will continue until next year, 2027. The scope of this webinar is to introduce, especially to the new incomers, the new people of the projects, to introduce you the Aquarius data management approach for open and fair data, and most importantly to explain you what is needed from you, from your teams, in order to implement the Aquarius data management approach most effectively. So we can go to the next slide, please. The next one. Maybe the one slide back, if it's possible. So as I said, the Aquarius is using a specific structured data management approach for all the collected data and metadata to make them open and fair. And the whole idea here is not just to collect data within your projects, within your funding projects, but to move all this information through a full life cycle from planning through the data management plans, as we will see later on, to collection, documenting metadata, processing and validating them, and finally publishing them into the established European infrastructures. These infrastructures are the one that you can see on the screen: thematic data infrastructures, CDataNet, Eurobis, Elixir-ENA, ICOS Ocean for Carbon Data, and Copernicus in situ thematic assembly centers. And all these thematic data systems are feeding European data services like IDMOTNet, Copernicus Marine, and also EDITO and other global systems. Also Aquarius will facilitate the open science as part of the European Open Science Cloud, and this will be done in synergy with the Blue Cloud project. Next slide, please. So we will see now, this is the agenda that you already received from us. This is the agenda of our today meeting. There will be presentation of 4 data management infrastructures, as I explained before, and as well as after this presentation, we will have the data management approach, and also at the end of the meeting, we will have a dedicated 15 minutes time slot to address your questions. I will introduce each presentation and each speaker later. And before we start, I would like to give you some housekeeping information. Next slide, please. The webinar will be recorded and it will be made available in the project website as it was done in the first webinar we have last year. It will be an interactive meeting, so you can mute and unmute your camera and your microphone, but you suggested to mute your microphones when you do not speak. Also, you can post your questions question into the chat, and these questions will not appear in the recordings. Neither your names will be visible there. As I said before, we will have a dedicated slot at the end for questions. You can make your questions directly to the speakers or use the chat. And also, we encourage you to directly connect each other using the chat. I hope that we will have many questions, but if we do not manage to address all of them during this event, we will post all the complete questions and answer later on the project website. If you have any problem during this meeting, please contact in the email that you see on the lower part of the screen. So this was a small introduction, and we are ready now to start with the first presentation. With Dix Hub from Maris, and it concerns the SeaDataNet Pan-European infrastructure for ocean and marine data management. Dick, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello. I have to send a request to share.
Make your co-host Nightic. All right.
So you can permit me.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's coming through. Okay. Yeah, my name is Dick Schaap. I'm the Work Package 6 leader in Aquarius, and I would like to present the SeaDataNet infrastructure, the Pan-European infrastructure for ocean and marine data management. This structure was built over over decades, in fact. In the 90s we started. And it's a network of the European NODCs and later also other data centers connected. And it provides harmonized discovery and access to marine and ocean data sets. And also it's promoting and also developing, let's say, fair standards that have been taken up by many data providers. And also we provide the tools and the services to underpin or to support that fairness. SeaData is a major player in the European landscape for marine data management, and it's fully on board, let's say, of AQUARIUS-RI, also working with CMEMS and also in the Blue Cloud and the digital twin of the ocean. Also, it has become an entity since 2019, the SeaDataNet ASBL, and this formalizing, let's say, the organization. If you look at SeaData, it has several services. One of the services are the European directories, and that implicates that the parts they maintain these directories, one for research projects, one for data sets, one for cruises, one for organizations, and also one for observatories. And also there is in the center, there's the CDI, the Data Discovery and Access Service. And in fact, all these different directories you can see as vocabularies or controlled terms, because they are used to mark up all the metadata and data, so that you get a linked data model, but also that you can machine-wise you can interact with all these services. And for this we have human interface GUI, but we also have machine-to-machine like Sparkle, SOAP, APIs, etc. If we focus on the CDI, the Data Discovery and Access Service, that has been built over, like I say, over many years. And currently it contains about 3.3 million CDI entries. And one entry could be a bathymetric survey. It could also be a CTD. It could also be a time series of sea level. So there are many, you cannot say, very well, let's say how many values are there, but it's entries in observations. And these were brought together by 118 data centers, and they are originating from more than 1,000 data originators, because we have these several data centers that are doing data management tasks for multiple data providers. There is a cooperation with AQUARIUS, as I explained, and for instance, AQUARIUS bathymetry. AQUARIUS bathymetry is preparing a digital terrain model as one of the key products, and that's based upon circa 40,000 survey data sets. And all these data sets, they are being managed with metadata in the in the CDI service. AQUARIUS Chemistry, also they make so-called validated aggregated data products for specific parameters like eutrophication, like contaminants, like marine litter. And the last product is based upon 1.2 million chemistry data sets for water quality. And if you look at this, then say again, these are all managed in the CDI CDataNet service. So there's a very, I would say, a very good cooperation between AQUARIUS and CDataNet, which is a mutual benefit. Now, if we go a little bit deeper into CDataNet in the standards and in fact what we would like you to, let's say, to learn or to adopt, there are common standards, and the common standards are for the metadata and also common standards for data. And for the data, we have two major formats, ODV and NetCDF. And they are used, let's say, for most of the data. Of course, we also have exotic data like, let's say, GTIF, GeoTIFF or others, and they can also be handled. But these are the major data sets that we try to choose. And then there is the CDI metadata. That is a standard format based upon ISO 19115 and 19139. And in addition, we have these other vocabularies and other directories, and they are using derived metadata formats. And finally, we also have a set of controlled vocabularies. There's quite a lot, many different lists. And with this, we are able, let's say, to mark up all the metadata and data with standard terms. And that makes the harmonization, of course, easier. And also it helps to do machine-to-machine services. To do or to use those standards, there are several tools available. One is for converting ASCII, any ASCII set to the ODV and NetCDF formats. Another one is Octopus, and that helps to check if you have several files in different formats. You can check with Octopus if they are compliant. And there is a software tool, Mikado, to make metadata entries, and all the metadata entries are in XML. But the most important for you are the CDI and the CSR. So the CDI, the Common Data Index, and the CSR, the Cruise Summary Report. There are also several other tools, let's say for analysis, for access, etc. But we are focusing more on the tools that you need, let's say, to populate the service. Here's an example of Mikado. It's a generator, metadata generator, and you can use it in two modes. You can use it manually by filling in some forms, or you can use it to connect it with the metadata base and then generate output after a mapping. That is also used now for CDI, but also used for the CSR. And in the case of the CSR, that's something that Cruise Summary Reports, they are in the project. We want to use them the moment that you do your observations with a vessel, let's say with a cruise, and therefore then also a Cruise Summary Report. And that's normally one for the whole cruise. And that best is then to use the Mikado in a manual mode, because it's just entering one file. Well, if you have data, of course, there are two options. One is going manually, or the other one is going for connection, batch to a metadata base that you manage yourself. Then there is a Nemo, just illustrated, that you can go for any ASCII to the standard ASCII and also to NetCDF. And that can work for several different data types. And then we also have Octopus, and Octopus, in fact, is able to convert, but also to check. And here you see a table, what it can do and what it can't do. And that's a handy tool always for if people are producing the files, let's say, to use Octopus to see if everything is okay. That means for your work later, let's say as scientific teams of the different TA events, that you, in case your data, let's say, will be populated into CDataNet, because we also have other repositories, but if your data fulfills the requirements and the, let's say, the scope of CDataNet, then in fact you will work somewhat, let's say, with these tools, the Nemo, Octopus, and Mikado tool. And then you best is already to start with downloading these tools and to do some practice that you can reproduce yourself, let's say, some from ASCII to ODV, and also that you can generate a CDI XML or a CSR XML just to get some hands-on experience. And that's something that we really advise. During this process, of course, let's say the assigned data centers that are in the project, they will offer support. And we are now having the training, but of course, later when you do some self-training and you experience some issues or difficulties, then the data centers are there, let's say, to help you and to get you over that bridge. Here are all the URLs. All the presentation will be shared afterwards. So that means that you will have all these slides. And here you can find details about the different software packages that are required, the installation files, the user manuals, and also some FAQs. So I hope I gave you quite a quick view on CDataNet. It is a big system. It's a lot. But it's something, let's say, it's one of the repositories. And as I say that, in case when you are working on this, let's say, we will help you to make your metadata and data fit for the purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dick, for this presentation on CDataNet. Let me also add that the data that CDataNet is handling is actually one of the let me put it in another way. Most of the TA projects are collecting and managing data that are related to CDataNet. So I would say that CDataNet is a core infrastructure into Aquarius. So it's very important, as Dick said, to start practicing and become familiar with all these tools, because it will be very helpful for all and will facilitate a lot what we want to achieve within Aquarius project. If you have any questions, you can chat them, or we can have them later during the Q&A session. And I think now we are ready for the next presentation, which concerned the biodiversity data management. And Michelle, you can
Hi, everyone.
present that.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, but it's coming, I think. Yes, it is okay.
All right. Thank you for having me. My name is Michelle, and I'm here representing Blitz. I will be talking about marine biodiversity data in the framework of EmmetNet and Eurobis. I'm going to start with a brief introduction on EmmetNet. Okay, so EmmetNet is an EU service for marine in situ data. It was established in 2009 and aims to observe, standardize, and disseminate marine data from the 7 thematic lots. It is a network of more than 120 organizations that work to make data and data products freely and openly available to all users. It is divided in 7 themes, so bathymetry, biology, chemistry, geology, human activities, physics, and seabed habitats. The geographic coverage is the European seas, basically. And it complies with Inspire Directive for metadata and Open Geospatial Consortium standards for web services. Now, each thematic lot is responsible for ensuring that data and products are available through the different web services. EmmetNet also adheres to the FAIR principles, and the guiding principle is basically collect once, use many times. I'm going to be focusing on the biodiversity data, which some of you will be producing, and I'm going to guide you onto how to submit this data to EmmetNet Biology. Okay. All right, so focusing more on EmmetNet Biology. EmmetNet Biology is a consortium which is led by Blitz, and it has around 30 organizations spread across Europe working together. So it has as a goal to provide support linked to marine biodiversity data for EU-funded projects, EU member states, EU institutions, and regional sea conventions. Now, the objective of EmmetNet Biology is to manage, publish, and curate marine biodiversity data. But we also create and publish data products based on the data and publish reports as well. Okay, so where is the data coming from and what does it look like? So EmmetNet was established in 2009, as I mentioned, and in the same year, EmmetNet Biology started working as a wrapper around the European Node for OBIS, which is a global initiative with the same aim. And so it would use the Eurobis infrastructure as a backbone and would develop from it to bring together marine biodiversity data. Since then, it has been powering the European node of OBIS with occurrences data from all types of sources. So from traditional sampling surveys and monitoring programs to citizen science, acoustic and satellite tracking data. Now, as you can see, the amount of records has grown exponentially over time. With more than 1,450 data sets, more than 40 million occurrence records, which come from different sources. So eDNA, tracking, acoustic monitoring, plankton imaging, historical data, and field service or citizen science. These various types of marine occurrence biodiversity data can then be absorbed by EmmetNet Biology and the Eurobis initiatives. It also holds more than 100 million measurements and facts records, which are associated to these occurrences or events. So these measurements of fact provide information of the occurrences. So, for example, on organism quantification, so biomass, abundance, or species biometrics like length, organism characteristics like sex, life stage, and in general, categorical values associated with the biodiversity occurrences. It also holds information about abiotic measurements that are related to the occurrences, so salinity or temperature, and sampling methodologies, as well as habitat descriptions. This to help keep Eurobis one of the most active OBIS nodes. So with this in mind, how can the different types of data be hosted together? Since they have different methodologies and working groups? Well, the answer is standardization best practices. Okay, and so this basically means a common format which is shared among EmmetNet Biology and Eurobis, as well as in general the biodiversity informatics community. So the name of this format is the Darwin Core, and it is a defined structure. It's basically a defined structure of the data set. Each data set is going to be divided into a certain number of tables, and within these tables, there are specific column names with a specific information about the content. So to standardize these column names, controlled vocabulary is needed, and oops, sorry. Okay, so in the case of taxonomy, we use WORMS or the World Register for Marine Species. For marine regions, for geography, we use marine regions, and for measurements of facts that I previously mentioned, we use the BODC or NERC vocabularies. Now, as for the metadata, we use the ecological metadata language, and for the general structure of the datasets, we use the Darwin Core. At the end of the presentation, there are some guidelines on how to produce these datasets. But why use these standards and vocabularies? So if we take, for example, this crab, many of us can name it in different ways, but it still has its scientific name. And in taxonomy, it can be quite complex. So a particular species can have several scientific names, some which are unvalidated or unaccepted, but are still in use, and even though it's not recommended. So to standardize, we need a control vocabulary, and basically this link right here will point to all these names and link all these names to this code. So we can be referring to the same crab with different names. So once the standardization is done, a number of services can be created. So on the left, you have a snapshot of a quality control tool to quality control Darwin Core datasets. So if the dataset has been formatted with Darwin Core, you can submit it in this tool, and it will show you which potential mistakes it may have, therefore increasing the quality of the dataset. And then on the right, you have a data portal and catalogs. So since the dataset has been standardized with controlled vocabularies, you can then create a data portal that will allow you for more in-depth queries of the database and not just look at the taxonomy, but maybe taxonomy combined with temporal coverage and other information. Okay, now for the Aquarius data providers, a key step is to understand how to submit marine biodiversity data to EMETNet Biology. So there are several options. You may choose which is easiest for you or more relevant to you. So if you're already familiar with the IPT instance or the GBIF API, you can send it through there. But you also have the email through EMETNet Biology or through Eurobis with the website form. And if you're in a different region of the world, you could always find your relevant OBIS node. But you could also submit it through EMETNet ingestion. And the point of all these possibilities is that, and why it's possible to share between these different resources is because the community of OBIS, GBIF, and EMETNet are all communicating with each other. And if one dataset ends up in EMETNet, it will eventually end up in GBIF. And if one ends up in GBIF, it will end up in EMETNet, and likewise with OBIS. So basically pick the best one for you and the most suitable for your scope. And then eventually they will end up in the data lake of Edito. Okay, there are some requirements, and this is because not all data is welcomed since it needs to fall within the scope of EMETNet Biology and Eurobis. So it has to be in situ taxonomic data, like I mentioned, observation, cDNA, imaging, acoustics. It has to adhere to the Darwin core. So the guidelines will be shared in the presentation later. It has to be submitted through an IPT instance, but that can be looked at later as the project advances. The quality of the data sets have to adhere to the EMETNet biology quality criteria. Ideally, data sets will have an open and free access data license, even though embargoes are possible on a temporary basis. And since we want in situ data, EMETNet doesn't deal with data that results from models or experiments, and sensitive data needs to adhere to the GBIF guidelines. Okay. All right, so these are some of the guidelines and templates that I was mentioning for you to use for your data. So there are free online courses, manuals, quality control tools, templates, and guidelines to create a product. You can always take a look at them later on. So a summary of what I've talked about. Who? This means that you are responsible for reformatting and quality controlling the data based on the EMETNet biology and Eurobis requirements. And as Blitz or the data center that will be helping you along, we can provide support. Why? Because everyone is connected. Sharing your data in EMETNet makes it available in a fair way to a wider audience and ends up in and then it ends up in the data lake for Edito. So to a wider audience. So please submit your data as soon as you're happy with your final version. This process does take time, so please make sure not to do it at the end of the project. There will be more talk of this later on. Where it means that as Blitz, as part of the EMETNet biology, we're always there to help, but your assigned data center can provide support as well. And yes, as I mentioned, keep in mind that it's marine in situ biodiversity data. And lastly, make sure to follow the EMETNet biology data formatting course, because it will provide you more in detail information on how to take this process. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for this presentation. Indeed, very informative, especially the last one with the links, because there is a question also in the chat, people asking if we are going to have workshop on the use of these tools. If needed, yes, of course, we will have workshop to support the teams, but it will be more efficient if people first practice a little bit by themselves using the tools, manuals, and videos that are already available in the home pages of these systems. Also, Dick presented a slide with some links. In these links, in the home pages of the separate tools, you will find videos which explain step by step how these tools can be used. So you should start practice and play with these tools. And if you have any question, any problem, of course, you can contact us and we can have separate events if it is needed. Okay. I think now we can go on with the next presentation with the biogenomics data management from the Elixir ENA infrastructure, presented by Stéphane Pesant. Stéphane?
Yes, good that we are a bit ahead of schedule. I might take 20 minutes if I...
Of course, I think, yes, we have this luxury.
There we go. You should be seeing my screen now.
Yes, it is okay.
Good. So yes, I am Stéphane Pesant, working at the European Bioinformatics Institute in Cambridge and talking about genomics data. So 2 weeks ago, I sent a survey to the different TNAs of Aquarius. So thank you for those who participated in the survey. We had responses from 11 TNA projects, 7 of which will generate genomics data. So it's also quite good to know which projects will not generate, so we can focus on those projects for genomics data. Out of the 7 who will generate genomics data, 3 had never submitted data to ENA, so it's a good way to start. Some of them did, however, submit genomics data to other archives, so it's not totally new. And 4 out of 7 have submitted data to ENA, to the European Nucleotides Archive, ENA. Using our interactive web portal. So I'll talk about that a bit later. But first, just as a quick background, so the European Bioinformatics Institute is based in Cambridge, as I said. It's one of the core facility of Elixir, the life science research infrastructure for Europe. And it covers a broad scope of data. So we do have archives and services for example, for chemicals that are relevant to biology, for example, metabolites. We deal with genomics data, with proteins, with proteomics studies. We also have quite a lot of services on imaging, mainly microscopy or high throughput imaging, and also other services about literature and ways to interlink all those data types. The majority of the data managed by EBI deal with humans, medical science, but there's quite a lot of environmental data as well. And the marine science is a very good part of that environmental data at EBI. And we're very active with the marine science community. So looking at now the genomics data, the archive at EBI is ENA, the European Nucleotides Archive. But it's part of a larger infrastructure, the International Nucleotides Sequence Database Collaboration, INSDC, and that's composed of the DNA Data Bank of Japan, the NCBI or Gene Bank in the US, and ENA in Europe. And so the three databases have the same basic structure, and they replicate their data overnight. So if you submit to DDBJ or NCBI, the data also appears at ENA in Europe. The data model at ENA is composed of 5 blocks, entities, objects. 2 of them hold metadata. That's the sample component, which has metadata about the provenance, but also methodology, about how the samples were generated. And then there's the experiment. Experiment has metadata about how the sample was sequenced or analyzed in different ways. And then we have 2 objects that hold data files. The first one is the run. That's where the raw reads and the sequences are submitted. And there's the analysis. For example, if you generate taxonomic annotations or functional annotations, or you do assemblies based on the raw reads, that's where that data ends up. And finally, there's the study object, which also holds only metadata, but it's the one that combines all the components that are related within a study that is submitted. And this is how you release, because the data can be archived and protected without being in open access at the very beginning. And when you want to release it in open access, it's done through the study. But the important part is that the sample can be released in the public domain, even if the study, the runs, the experiment, and the analyses are private. And that's really the best practice that we propose, so that the metadata about the samples, what you collected, is always in open access and discoverable. And all these components, so everything that you submit to these different components, have unique identifiers that we call accession numbers. And you have an example at the bottom of how these are, how they look, how they are composed. Data in numbers at ENA, we now have over 37 million runs, raw reads, from over 6 million samples, because samples can be sequenced several times, and you can have different objects related to a sample. These are part of over 500,000 studies. That represents 60 petabytes of data at the moment, and ENA has over 200 help desk tickets per month. I don't know if that's a very good thing, but the help desk is quite good, and they help you resolve any issues that you have. So about data formats and submission tools. So the objects that hold metadata, so project samples, experiments, you can submit and you can retrieve the data in text file, TSV format, JSON, or XML. The others have more specific formats. Those who generate sequencing data are familiar with that. For the runs, it's mainly FASTQ and BAM files. For genomes, it's mainly FASTA, and the other ones have, there's a longer list of data types that have their own specific format. So I was mentioning that most people who answered the survey used, those who have submitted data to ENA in the past, have used the web interactive interface, which is what most people use, except sequencing centers usually have more programmatic ways. So that includes the Webin command line interface, the Webin CLI, where you see that this is what people use to submit analyses and reads. And programmatic submissions also can be used, but that's not what most people use. Now about sample metadata. Yes, so data without, we've been saying that since the beginning, data without context have very little value. And the metadata, depends how rich your metadata is, can make it possible to fair data, to find and access interoperable and reusable data. So you can ask questions like, I want to get data about copepods in the Atlantic Ocean, sample between surface and 200 meters between March and July. If the submitters provide enough metadata, that query can be run and answered by you or by an AI bot in the future. But that all depends on the quality and the richness of the metadata. So what we use at ENA, we use checklists to help. You can submit data with the default checklist, which has very little metadata requirements. But there are lots of other checklists which are richer, and that's what we suggest that you use. These are only examples from the Genomic Standard Consortium, the GSC checklists. MIXES stands for metadata about sequencing. It's not that, but it's close to that. And these are the main ones that we use for environmental submissions. So the MIXES air, sediment, soil, and water. And I'll show you, there's a link there, but hopefully if we have time, I can show you where to find them. And these checklists have attributes. Some of them are mandatory, other optionals, and there's also a list of missing value, standard missing value terms to use if you don't have the information. So if we look at, this is the default checklist, which has 3 attributes only that are mandatory. The first one being taxonomy, the second one, geographic location, and that's not latitude, longitude, that's only text description of the location, but there is a control, a validation, you will see, and the collection date. That's the very minimum. Then if we look at I picked the MIXES water checklist, which is the one you will probably use. You have the first 3 are the default ones, and then it has also as mandatory attributes, latitude, longitude, depth, 3 attributes about the environment, broad scale, local, environmental medium, and project name. Taxonomy at ENA, we use the NCBI taxonomy, which includes classic species names, but also metagenomes, so taxonomy that describes more a community. If you sample a water body, then you have a community of microorganisms then we usually use marine metagenome as a taxonomy identifier for that. There is, however, a mapping that exists at ENA and at NCBI between NCBI and worms. So NCBI has over 3 million taxa. Worms has 250,000 accepted marine species names. And in the mapping, we have 98,000 matches. So that's a good start, and it usually covers most cases. Then when I talked about the geographic location, country, and or sea, the text choice that I mentioned is a list of countries, but also it's not there, but also includes Atlantic Ocean, some seas as well. And that's the list coming from the United Nations statistics. So that's because many submitters, especially with human data, cannot disclose the location with latitude, longitude, that's one way to at least get some information about the provenance of the sample. But you'll see that we can do better than that. So collection date, latitude, longitude, depth. There's a validation with a regex. These are the regex, but in other words, it means that you have to follow some standards when you report the dates, latitude, longitude, and depth. For the three environmental attributes, we recommend to use ontologies. We have an ontology lookup service at EBI, and for your data, we recommend using ENVO as an ontology, so you can describe things like estuarine biome as a broad scale, marine wind mixed layer as a local, for example, and seawater as the environmental medium. So that's an example of how you can use ENVO to describe these. And that helps the discoverability. Then if we look at optional attributes that are in the checklist, geographic location can also be described with marine regions. That's what we recommend. Michel talked about that. Then there are other groups of attributes describing the amount of organisms collected, their biomass. I'm trying to get a bit faster. Then another group of attributes describe the collection device, collection method, size fractions, if it's relevant. The sample storage location and temperature. There are others, but these are some key ones that we recommend. And you can also, in the checklist, there are environmental parameters like pressure, conductivity, temperature, fluorescence, where you can put directly in the metadata of the sample its environmental context in terms of measurements. Regarding the reporting, the missing value, this is the standard used by INSDC. It can be found there, but it's also indicated in on the web application. But this is a way, for example, with not applicable sometimes, not collected, not provided, and then in the missing, for example, with control samples, it's better not to provide a latitude, longitude, date, time for control samples. So then even if the attribute is mandatory, you can put missing control sample. So now I wanted to, yes, let's do that. Go online. So this is the homepage of ENA. You can find out more about the search fields. What we want to do today is look at how to submit. So these are the three ways to submit data. The Webin portal, this is the interactive one that we recommend. You need to register, it's quite simple. That's my account. And when you go in the submission portal, you find this data model again, and you can register a study, a sample, submit reads, or submit analyses. And you can also look in the reports. You can see what you have reported in the past, and you can follow the progress of that. When you go into the different elements, for example, for samples, then you can download a spreadsheet to register your samples, which is in Excel format, and then you can upload it in the portal. So in this case, if we do download a spreadsheet, you go here, marine checklists. There's a list. Let's pick one. And then it gives you the mandatory fields that will be included, and you can select additional fields, and then you can download your template, fill it, and submit it in the portal. So take-home message. Yes. If you go online at ENA, you'll find a lot of documentation if you follow those links. And basically for preparing your sample metadata, I'm there to help you. So you can contact me and I'll help you with the checklist, taxonomy, provenance, the environmental context, and the missing terms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Are there any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Maybe we need some time to digest to ingest all this information. It's can I have a question? Maybe it was not clear to me. Can we download some of this data if we want to, besides the sample templates that we are provided? Can the user download in some areas some data?
Yes, definitely. If it's public, yes.
If it's public, okay, it will be helpful. And also a small comment. I think 20 help desk query, 200 queries per month is a good number, a very good number. I think, to my knowledge, from what I can say. I don't know. Maybe other people have better experience, but I think it's a very good score. Okay, thank you very much, Stefan. So we can now continue with the next presentation by Benjamin Fail for the IQOS for the ocean and the ocean IQOS ocean for the management of the carbon data from Nordsee. Benjamin.
Hi. Thank you, Sissy, for the introduction. Can everyone hear me? Good. I'm going to present the IQOS Ocean Thematic Center for Marine Carbon Data. I will not go into details as Stefan. I got a bit stressed, so I have something otherwise online if needed. I work at Norse, and I received contribution from Alex Vermeulen from the IQOS-RI, from Steve Jones, and Halo Loretetat from Liz for this presentation. I give a brief introduction to IQOS, since I think IQOS is not very known to most of the people attending this webinar. The main aim of IQOS, it stands for Integrated Carbon Observation System, is to get access to standardized greenhouse gas measurements through Europe. This is a slide about the network of IQOS. It provides standardized high-quality measurements to enable better science and reliable information towards decision makers. We have 3 scientific domains, and it's one unique integrated effort. So we have ecosystem data, atmospheric data, and marine data. In total, there are around 180 stations from 16 member and observation countries, and everything is coordinated through the IQOS-RI that was established, I think, in 2015. So it's one of the older ones. As you can see, 3 different domains, many member states. The coordination is a bit tricky, and I have one slide about that one. This one shows basically the snapshot of from the website. And like you said, like you have the different spheres, the atmosphere, ecosystem, the ocean measurements. And oops, sorry, that one was double. So about the entire organization, since it's a bit more complicated, since we have 3 different domains, and then the different member countries. So not everybody can simply become an IQOS station. So first the country has to become a member of IQOS, then they have to suggest different stations they would like to contribute with. The stations have to pay member contribution fees. Then the data goes into the various thematic centers, and then everything is coordinated through the IQOS head office. The thematic centers are responsible for the data coordination, the technology innovation, quality control, submission to the carbon portal. I will talk about the carbon portal later on, and for flux calculations and production of synthesis products. The Ocean Thematic Center supports the marine part of the IQUARIUS Ocean Network, particularly in the North Atlantic, Arctic, Nordic Seas, Baltic, and the Mediterranean. It evaluates and develops new instruments. It develops protocols for the stations. It provides training, liaison with the ship industry, and carries out a station labeling process for the ocean network. This is actually the key one, since we don't really have a lot of standardized measurement devices. Many of them, they're using different setups. So for us, it's more the evaluation about the overall quality we can expect from a station, since we want to have high quality data. Then within the IQOS OTC, we have data management approaches. Software was developed by Steve Jones, who's now at Bliss. We have data reduction techniques and quality control. We provide live access data through systems like SOCAT. And now I have to see what is on the bottom of the slide. I can see it. Yes, and NRT and delayed mode data is distributed, for example, to Copernicus. Those are the different services that IQOS offers to the member stations, basically access to training, technology, the data, and the station certification. And of course, the leadership, the coordination that we join scientific projects as well, because it's a research infrastructure, maintains the access to the data and maintaining the network, but not the science. In order to get the scientists within IQOS contributing as much as they can and get the most out of them for them, we have a lot of projects that are aligned from the scientific part. To the station certification process, it's a lot. I mentioned that one as well before. It's about the overall quality that we can expect from a station. That is a very tedious project, because we kind of expect data from the past few years, do analysis upon that one, really to make sure that just really high quality data becomes part of IQOS, since we provide data to decision makers. The marine network consists currently of 26 marine stations, and we mainly have two different kinds of data. We have data from research vessels or commercial vessels. You see them on the right-hand side, where we measure on the surface measurements, PC2. And then we have moorings that either go subsurface or in depth, and then they either measure continuous measurements, or we have discrete measurements as well from those stations. As you can see as well on the map, that it's highly diverse. You can see the ship tracks, they're kind of easy to spot, and then we have different stations, and data delivery depends upon the platform as well. Getting NRT data from a commercial vessel can be a bit more difficult in different regions, so data access varies. Some is NRT and some is delayed mode. In order to get the best out of the data, we have different data levels. We have, for example, we have the raw data that is being gathered by the instruments that goes to the site PI or goes directly to the Ocean Thematic Center, where we have a software called Quince. I'm going to present it afterwards, that does the data reduction and the automatic QC. Then the data goes, the different versions, to the carbon portal. L0 is raw data, L1 is automatic quality control data, and then level 2 is basically where the scientists get access to the data and can do the quality control online, and basically to make sure that we have the scientific eye on the data in order to ensure the best quality. As you can see here, the data flow is relatively complex, and in order to handle everything to the best possible amount, we have a description as well, so we can actually track at every single step if data is not coming in, who is responsible, what is missing, and so on. So it's a quite elaborate procedure for the stations joining. For the processing of underway data, so PCO2 data, everything in IQOS is about the essential ocean variable inorganic carbon. And the main ones we are focusing upon is DIC, pH, and PCO2. And for the PCO2 data, so the underway data, subsurface data we're measuring, we're using air-water equilibration systems, and we basically aligned the quality control with the major protocols that are in use by the scientific communities, and those are the Piero et al. Paper and the Takahashi 1993 paper for temperature data ones. And then Quince handles everything that is quite depending on the sensor, if it's a membrane sensor and the different specifics. If you want to learn more about Quince, you can find it online under quince.science. And that's basically how it works. The data is being ingested in the system. Everything is online, so the quality control can be performed by the scientist. I mean, it does automated quality control and data reduction. And then the data is made available to the scientists, and they can take a look at the different variables. On the top, you can see the different variables that are handled within a normal file. You choose a variable, it kind of it kind of gives you plots over the region and a property plot. And then basically it gives you an automated quality control, for example, if it's good data, bad data, or questionable data, and then the scientist can actually override that one. The possibility that the scientists can override that one is there as well, because they know the system best. They can know if there are failures in the system and can, for example, assure if they know that there are certain issues with the sensor, that no calibration was, for example, done, they can override the data and, for example, say the data is questionable or bad. This is currently being done at FLIS because Steve Jones left Bergen, I think last year. So this one is continued at FLIS. And then the data flow is basically, as described before, we have the level 0, level 1 data that is going through Quince, then it's being quality controlled, where we have the manual QC at the end by the scientists in order to prove that everything is good. We do a final data check. Then the data is being integrated into global data products, for example, the SOCAT, the Surface Ocean CO2 Atlas. And then the data is being made available to the Carbon Portal, IQOS Carbon Portal as well. The IQOS Carbon Portal is the backbone of IQOS, is the IQOS data center, and it offers users the open and free exchange and access to IQOS data and data products. You can search for data, visualize data, download data for different services. It gives you different statistics, comparison tools. It gives access to education materials and reports. Then the data is being archived on a long-term basis, on an automated basis. Of course, PIDs, DOIs, and everything is being minted. Everything with semantic web and ontologies is being implemented, and it's pretty much scalable to the different needs that are needed. And of course, all data portals or data centers are the entire time being updated continuously. That's basically how the ICON Carbon Portal looks like. And can you see my screen now, the presentation? Yeah, yes. So basically, since Stefan stressed me a bit about details, that is basically how the IQOS Carbon Portal looks. You can search for data. You can, for example, click on the station map and can see the different stations. If you click on the map, you get the data from one station. You have a compact overview as well. You can look for data, for example, for different domains, if you if you basically select some of the ones. I now selected, for example, one of the marine stations that is from a cargo ship. You see the track and everything, the data, and then you'd see the different variables that are being measured on the platform, all different kind of statistics, how often the data was accessed. That is a quite recent data file. And then you can do property plots on the data that shows data on a map, or you basically get access to the data on property plots. Then Then the IQOS Carbon Portal is a fully fair data portal and follows all the concepts of fairness. 96% of the data are fair, and we don't just talk about findable, accessible, and reusable. We really go by all the 17 aspects of fair. Currently, there are 2.6 million persistent data objects, around 1.5 data downloads a year. Data usage is being tracked, and then there are different portals as well for different sub-projects of IQOS. The common metadata model and data flows and services, we basically, or IQOS Carbon Portal managed to unify 3 domains and has operational automated data pipelines. It follows all the multi-standards, ISOs, scheme.org, and so on. It does a near real-time, it gives access to near real-time data, fast-track final quality control data, and the data products. And of course, the different data pipelines and services. The data is afterwards integrated on a global level. For example, it's indexed into Google Data, GEOS, WMO, EOSC, then different project repositories. The IQOS Carbon Portal is now hosting the global carbon budget data they used for the annual budgets that you hear most likely every fall, how much the emissions are from every country. And it's ready for NRT and fast track data through G3W3. Here are some recent numbers about IQOS data for 25. You can see them. So it's a quite used data system for 3 domains, and it's kind of unique for this kind of data. But the idea of having just take the look at carbon from the atmosphere for the ecosystem and the marine part was not possible. So the integrated view is needed in order to get the best possible out for decision makers. I skipped that one, or I can simply say there are different tools that are being used for evaluating the fairness of the data, and this one is done automatically. And on top, we do that one for the data. There's a KPI dashboard for the Ocean Thematic Center, and it basically tells you about every station that are coming, about every station that are coming in, about the quality of the data, how much are good, how much are questionable, and so on for different stations. So we have a good overview what is being done within the network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Very interesting presentation and very important for in the recent year. Very important to study the CO2, the carbon
Yes.
data and fluxes and all this. Also, I would like to say that there is because in CDataNet, let's say. And not only, many systems use ODV to have a first, let's say, visualization of the available data. And I think the ODV tool makes available online the IQOS data. There are links people can use, can explore just to see what exists, and it would be a very good chance within this project to add Aquarius data into this global system and see in our areas, in our regions, what is going on concerning carbon data and its changes. So thank you again, and we finalized with the 4 major Aquarius infrastructures for the data that are going to be collected or have already been collected. And now we will continue with the next one, which is related with the data management approach and the data management plans that are being developed and by the teams within Aquarius projects and are monitored by data centers. So Dick will continue with the next presentation on the data management plans, as I said, and the data summary log up for recording the metadata into the experiment, into the field experiment. So Dick.
Yeah, thank you, Sissy. Yeah, I want to go a little bit deeper into the data management approach for Aquarius. And let's say this you already have seen. Let's say we want to work with these existing and leading research infrastructures or data. And from there, let's say we guarantee that the data becomes available for the larger initiatives. And that's something I think has been explained quite well in the previous presentations. At the same time, of course, you have to think you don't have to send your data to all 4 of these centers. You most probably have 1 or 2, let's say, that fit your scope. And that also means that you don't have to get well known to all these systems, let's say, to handle your data in the Aquarius project, because it's quite overwhelming maybe in the beginning. If we look at the data management approach, let's say here's now a schedule. We call it the data flow. And in fact, it starts with that there are data centers assigned to the different TA projects, and they are a little bit your coaches. So today we have a webinar, data management, but in later on, let's say each of the TA events gets 1 or 2 assigned data centers, and they will help, let's say, during the process. You already have defined an interim data management plan, and that will be reviewed by those data centers, and then based on this, you can finalize your data management plan. And that's simply to see that how you propose, let's say, is fitting into in the strategy that Aquarius has. Then, of course, the real work starts. You go collecting data, so that and during that collection, we want you to maintain a simple data summary log. And that means every day make a sort of summary, let's say, of the data that you have collected. And for this, we have developed an app that can work on a tablet. And it's from the first 3 projects that use it, the experience was very good. So it's quite simple to use and also quite simple to install. And then later you can share with us, let's say, the summary log. That summary log is presented then or published at what we call the Aquarius Data Flow Dashboard. And that dashboard gives an overview of all the TA events. And then in time, it shows you the progress in the data management approach. And that's starting then, let's say, with a fact sheet of your TA event. That will be produced together with Seascape and also be posted on the website, another space, but also here on this dashboard. And then the next step is, let's say, having a final data management plan also published at the dashboard. And then the summary log when you come back from the real field work. And then, of course, we start into a part where you have to work on the data and the metadata. So you work on your data, you have to process. Could be direct data, but could also, of course, be data from samples. That takes more time with laboratories and others, let's say, that work on this. But we would like you then, let's say, to adopt to the standards that we have described earlier. And then make sure, let's say, that the data in the data center, through the data centers, becomes available in those European infrastructures. And as was emphasized a couple of times, you're not alone in this, but we would like you to do some homework, let's say, to get used to these standards and the tools so that you can really make a step forward. And then later, let's say, have a dialogue or a coaching with these assigned data centers by which you can finalize your work and also in fact, learn for the next event that you're going to do. Once the data have been included in the different systems, then it's also, let's say, feeding into these larger systems like Edito, AWNet, Copernicus. But also it is then published at the Aquarius Data Flow Dashboard. And the Data Flow Dashboard, like I said, over time, it shows the progress in your data management per TA event. There's one special. If you are using a research vessel for your TA event, then you also have to make a so-called cruise summary report. That's only one report. And that's an even more a summary, really a summary. I'll say more a summary than the data summary log, because that works per day. And the cruise summary report, in fact, works over the full cruise. But of course, a lot of the information that you have collected in the data summary log can be used, let's say, to aggregate to that cruise summary report. And that can also add it to the CDataNet and to the data flow dashboard. So this is, let's say, in the burst view, but there is this deliverable that we have been advocating to you several times, is 6.2. and there's the Zenodo link, and there you can find the whole approach in more detail. One element in the approach is then these gathering the data during your acquisition, and that using, let's say, the TA data summary log app. And I want to show you a little bit more how that looks like. Now the app itself is quite simple. You can, let's say, I will give you the address where you can download it. Also, the metadata model is not all too difficult. And the app itself, let's say, you can prepare your summary, and then the summary can be uploaded to the Aquarius data dashboard. And you can do that as many times if you would like, but always the last one is the one that we keep. If you look at some screens, there's the home page, there is the introduction with the menu. And one of the first things you have to do is configure, let's say, the app for your purpose, because there are long lists, vocabulary lists, let's say, of let's say, instruments that are being used, or locations, or other things. And you can strip them, simply make them fit for your purpose, for your event. So then when you are in the field itself, you don't have to browse through very long pull-down menus, but you can use only those which are more trimmed, let's say, to your purpose. That's the configuration, and that also means that you enter researchers, for instance, the people that are involved in your research. Also the organizations, you choose them from a directory. That's quite rich, the CData Atmo directory. If your name or your organization, let's say, if your organization is missing, you tell us, because then immediately we can make a code for that and make sure it's in there for the near future. You enter your researchers, and also you, like I say, you strip down the vocabularies for those that really are needed for your project. The same for equipment, and then you describe your project in a few, I would say in a few metadata tags, from to what's the full name, what's the disciplines that you are working on, a sort of summary. And then you have completed the project, and then in fact you start with your real work. So this is all preparatory work. Simply configure and make sure that everything is on board to go to sea or to the laboratory. And then you every day you enter the observations, and that's again done in with a simple form which uses these pull down lists, and once in a while also some free text. So most is standardized entries. And also there is a map, a geogrid, and we work with 1 by 1 degrees, a little bit like the ISIS CSR map grid. And that's very easy. You simply tick with a pen or with your fingers, and you can put those grids into the information. Later then, when you're ready, you submit it to, you upload it, let's say, to the ADD, and it's there checked if everything is okay, and if it's okay, it will be published. And I show you one example, I'll say how that works. You see here on the right, you see an overview, let's say the summary page, or the overview page of the different TA events. They indicate also which research infrastructures are being used in the data start and the end, and then details. And if you go to details, this is one of the TA events that already took place, the Astra in the Black Sea. And here you see that the follow-up, let's say the name is there, but there's already the project information, which is the fact sheet, start date and end date. The data management plan is available, and the summary data log is available, while the actual metadata and data is still, let's say, underway. If you look then at the TA summary, how it looks like on the website, here you see everything that has been filled in by the app, and it speaks for itself. And here you see, let's say, all the daily observations with the equipment, and also we see all the researchers that were involved and the institutes to which they belong, and we see the map with the grid where the actual data took place. Like we said before, we have a data management approach, and really the idea is, let's say, to make all the data fair and also available for wider use. Therefore, filling in this TA summary log is an obligation. But using the app, it's not hard. And you can also think anyway, you have to keep an index yourself and save all your data. If you really want to work with it later, you need that. Otherwise the whole observation time spent is will not give, let's say, real results. So in this case, this will help you. And the idea is that we received then the full summary log after 2 weeks after the collection. If you have a cruise, also make a cruise summary report. Here you can find the latest Aquarius app. And this app, let's say, at this page, you also will find the instructions how to install and how to update, and also what kind of tablet you need. Let's say the specifications. And as I said before, the use of the app is quite easy. And there are also inside, let's say, some guidance notes how you can set up your initial configuration, how you can use it. And finally, the logs will be published at the ADD. There is here an overview where we are right now, because we have several TA projects that have been accepted, and we are in the process of also assigning, let's say, the data centers. The first 3 were in 2025, and they are well underway, let's say, to metadata and data, and they did the other steps. Then in 2026, very soon, let's say, new TA events start. And they have already assigned, let's say, the data centers. And the data centers, they are now reviewing the interim data management plans, and they will come back to you. They will contact you, and then from there on, let's say, you can work further. Also, it's wise also already for those that are starting, let's say, to download the app and get a little bit used to it. Then we have 3 projects from the first call who are planned to go in 2027, and we have not yet assigned the data centers. And recently, from the call 2, several TA projects were accepted or nearly accepted, and that's this list. And for those, let's say, very soon, let's say, we have to assign data centers, because several of them are also planned to start in 2026. And you see here the areas, the lighthouse areas and the leading institutes. But that's something for us, let's say, to assign data centers also to these new TA projects, and this way make the next step forward. So I hope you're not overwhelmed by everything that you hear at this webinar. But take it easy, and then it works, because we have done this with many other providers with success.
Thank you, Dick. I can assure people that it's, as Dick said, it's not so difficult as it seems, because all the tools are in place. The only thing that is needed is rich metadata that you can capture all this metadata with all these functionalities that the project is offering, and then some practice on the use of the tools for preparing for the proper formats, validating them, and submitting to the Aquarius systems. I see 2 questions on the chat. Maybe Dick, you would like to respond. Or I would say maybe you can continue with the next presentation and then address all questions during the next Q&A session. What do you think? I think I cannot.
Okay, I will share the last one.
Okay, and then we continue with the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, the last presentation is about the exploitation strategy, because we, in the project, let's say, all the European projects, they need to look at impact, and they have an exploitation strategy. And for this purpose, let's say, we already prepared the so-called exploitation plan outline, how we want to achieve, let's say, this exploitation plan by the end of the project. Again, this report is available at Zenodo, because we publish all the reports at Zenodo, so make it widely open. If you read the report, I can summarize a little bit, of course, because we say that communication, dissemination, and exploitation are very important for every project. And that is more and more, let's say, emphasized in the Horizon Europe program. An accepted approach for this is that we formulate and focus on potential key exploitable results, the curves. And curves are also in all the proposals that are being made now, the curves play an important role, because in those curves we promise more or less to achieve certain results, also in numeric sense, also in the qualitative sense. And during the project, we have to follow and monitor and see if we can make it. If you look at Aquarius, we have two levels of CUR. One could be from the project itself. So we have, for instance, new scientific knowledge, and that could be produced, let's say, as part of reports or policy briefs. Will be a data management plans. There will be best practice guidelines. So several outputs from the project, Aquarius project, can be seen as such. But also we need the CURs, let's say, also resulting from the actual research projects, the transnational access projects. And that could be new data products, scientific papers, and also new knowledge, of course. And that's something we cannot oversee right now, but it's something that we need your help to bring this together, to get this insight. And for this, we have developed some templates, or a simple template, I can better say, that has some clear questions, but also helps them to set a pathway towards the exploitation. And that's something that we ask you to already very soon start filling it in. But then, let's say, after a while, with also during the further write, let's say, that this can be refined, also in a consultation with the assigned data centers that will work with you. So what we here say, let's say that exploitation in the context of Horizon Europe is focusing on a couple of elements. One is the CURs that I already explained. Then the target users who can exploit the results. So who are we working for, or who do we see as potential users? How do we reach out to them, the pathway? And finally, what is then the impact as a result of the user exploiting that result? And like I said, these questions are nowadays standard in every proposal, and it's also something that we monitor during the project, sorry. In the case of Aquarius, we have 5 main target groups. One are the researchers and the academia. Then we have the relevant research infrastructures, EU, and also long-term EU data services, and also the digital twin of the ocean, because they make use of a lot of the output from your work in the project. Also, we think of industrial communities and SMEs because they're also interested in data, and they work at sea and they need data and they need knowledge. And then also a little bit higher, let's say, policy platforms and decision makers, because they like to see more aggregated or interpreted data and more data products and knowledge. But they are also keen they're higher up in the pyramid, let's say, from collecting data up to the use of data. And finally, we also have the wider society, and we see increased interest from citizen science groups. They are also collecting more and more data, and also they're interested in other data to benchmark their own data. And that's something also as a growing community. So those are the 5 communities that we oversee and that we make the target. It doesn't mean that they have to be the target of every TA project, because it can be that you have 2 or 3 targets and not all 5, but that's okay, of course. Then the template that we developed, it's 4 questions, or in fact 4 elements and 5 questions. One is the key exploitable result for your project, and that so please describe the results and the outputs that you foresee from your project. And what solution does that offer, or what problem do you address with this work? And that's should be not all too difficult, because you have it already in your proposal. It's just a matter of maybe tuning it a little bit for this form. Then we have the target users who can use these results and how. And like I said, you don't need to target all the users that we foresee, but it could be 1 or 2 groups, and then maybe a little bit more specific than we do, but that is up to you. Then we have the dissemination channel. How do you reach out to those target users? And of course, a good answer could be that you make use of the Aquarius dissemination and promotion, because we do a lot about this. And that's a way to reach out to a large community, but there also might be additional channels that you foresee and that you want to use or apply yourself. And finally, we have the impact. Can you say something about what change would result from the use of your result? And that's a difficult one, because the work you do is very important for you, but maybe just a drop in the ocean if you look in the total. But at the same time, please tell us what you think, how much impact you can make with your result. And then also, what difference will it make and on whom? So how can you and how could you measure this? Could be by interviews, could be by use statistics, download statistics, all kinds of things, citation index. There are many ways to fill this in. But this is the template, and the template will be shared with you if you go to that deliverable and Zenodo. But we also have an example how this might work, how you can fill it in. And this is one that has been filled in, let's say, for the project task. And in this case, it was the project task 6.1, where they looked at data gaps in the, let's say, the analyzed data gaps in the overall field, in the landscape, which then could help to prioritize the calls. And that has indeed also used like this. And here you can see the answers, how it was done. So they say it was a comprehensive analysis to knowledge targets for the mission Ocean and also for the European Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. The data gap analysis itself, it ensures that the data collection efforts in the TA projects really are targeted and that you will deliver meaningful data that can support and advance those goals. It has been used by those designing the TA goals, and that already has been done. It also can be used by the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership to formulate their goals, because they also need to know what people want and what is necessary, what are priorities. And it also can be used by DG Mare, DG RTD, say, to inform and design of future funding goals, which is again important because this way, let's say, we help to shape the new goals and on which of course we can reply later. Dissemination channel, in this case, there is a direct partner-to-partner contact in the case of the data gaps, so within the project, but there is also a structuring effect of the activities in task 1.3. And also the key conclusions have been taken up or can be taken up in the Aquarius policy brief. And that will be presented and shared with the relevant policy contacts. And also there will be a dedicated event at the end of Aquarius project where this will be emphasized, let's say, and highlighted. Then what changed would result from the use of the result. Now, important data gaps are filled, resulting in better informed decision making. And finally, what difference will it make on whom? Now, what we can see is the number of TA projects providing new data relevant to the TA. So we already see we have right now, I think 8, we are 16 projects right now already, but there are more coming from the calls. And they will provide new data, and that can help to fill those gaps or contribute to filling the gaps. Then we have a number of other projects, funding proposals, referencing the report. Let's say it's the wider scope, the wider pond. And of course, the number of policymakers that will attend the final event. That's also a measurement of the impact of the project. So to come back, the idea is that I'm asking all of you to brainstorm within your team and complete the exploitation, not the exploitation, but the exploitation template for your event. Try to do it soon, let's say end of May. And we have this deliverable 7.2, which has the empty template, and also it gives some further explanation. But like I said, it's when you already thought about your project, so you made a very good proposal, it was accepted, and it went to the review. And that means that most of the answers you already have, but we would like you, let's say, to use them to fill in this form so that we can have a better insight in the key exploitable results that you are planning and that you will deliver, and also what you think about the impact. And we can use that then later for the final exploitation plan, exploitation strategy that we're going to produce as a result of the project by the end of the project, so in month 48. So I hope this is all clear. And like I say, it's quite light. It's not very heavy, but it has to be done.
Thank you, Dick. And with this presentation, we finished let's say, the first and biggest part of the agenda. now we have some time, some minutes for addressing questions that our partners may have. I see one in the chat, and it's for you, Dick. When does the information into the log app when the project is a remote access?
Maybe it's very simple, but of course you have to fill it in yourself using the app, because we expect all the indexes or the summaries to come in the same way and not the difference between the different projects. The modus under which you work, that you have to improvise maybe a little bit, but that should not be so difficult, because if you do a remote access and you say we make use of a certain equipment, maybe there's only one line you can use and repeat it every day. But use your logic, I would say, and creativity, please.
Yes, indeed. It will be done manually as all the other in all other events in the experiments in collecting activities into Aquarius. I don't see any questions, but it's okay. We can proceed with the follow-up actions with the last part of this webinar, where we maybe we can share this presentation, Bernie, where we will give you some in more details what is needed from the TA scientific teams in the coming period, what is needed in order to follow the steps, the data collecting and processing steps, as the data management plan is describing, and also what is needed from the data centers that are responsible for monitoring this process and make sure that the data will be published as fair and open data. Next one, please. Actually, a lot of this information has been shared with you during the first webinar last year, last June, when we had in front of us the first Call One projects. The first Call One projects were to be implemented. So in this first webinar, we addressed many of these things with people, the TA teams. Now we have to repeat them for the new events that are going to take place within 2026 and next year, 2027. Let's say that before the projects take place, we have to complete the data management plans. You already have submitted the initial plan for the proposal, but now we have to review them, and the data centers will review them, and we will have a contact with you to see what has to be changed into these initial plans, and then you have to submit the full plans into the project, and this have to be completed 2 months before the project start. Of course, we have some projects that are going to be start next May, as I have seen the information of the project, which means that by end of April, it would be the best way in order the data centers come in contact with you in order to update your initial data management plan. If you haven't already been contacted by the data centers, by end of April, the assigned data centers to your project will contact you. Also, another action that it's strongly recommended before the events is to practice a little bit with the log app in order, and if required, Maris can supply to you this tablet, or you can install it into your machines, in your means, and try to become familiar with that, because in this way it will be very easy to fill in during the events. And this is Okay, we mentioned here an indicative date, 2 months before the project, so in order to have enough time to be prepared. By doing this practice before, you will be able to manage and handle this application on a daily basis. As your project is collecting more and new data, you will be able to complete it. So after the events, it's important to share these log files with all the capture metadata. It's important to share this with the allocated data center, the data center that is responsible to follow up your data management activities. And if applicable, return tablets to Maris if needed. If you're collecting activities, if your project includes research cruises, then after 1 month of the completion of the cruise, you have to, with a supportive data centers, if needed, you have to complete and submit to the CDataNet catalog the cruise summary reports. In the presentation in the CDataNet, there are all the links and videos also how someone can do that, how someone can prepare the CSRs and submit it into the CDataNet system. And also another maybe a very important activity which concerns the data themselves, because so far we speak about metadata, information that is related with the data that you are going to collect or you have already collected. As soon as the project have finished the field activities, the collection activities, and as soon as you have cleaned your raw data that collected on the sea, and also as soon as you have finalized the laboratory analysis that is needed for some times or for some types of data, then you have to submit this processed data into the Aquarius ingestion mechanism, which is the imminent ingestion or the Sinoe data citing service if you need a DOI for this data set. And the submission of your processed and elaborated collected data should be done as soon as possible, because the data center needs also some time in order to finalize all the remaining steps of the data management plan. And certainly this has to be done well in advance, well before the end of the project. In the last slide of this presentation, I will give you a synoptic table that will summarize all these timelines. But this is very crucial for Aquarius to have your data a few months after the completion of your project. Next, please. Okay, in this slide, this slide already mentioned during the CDataNet presentation, and I include also again here, includes the CDataNet tools and approach. And I use this example again because I'm coming from the CDataNet community, and I am familiar with this approach. So here, what we include in this slide is all the steps that you have to follow one by one for your data processing. First, you have to download and install the CDataNet tools. The installations are very easy. Also download the manuals and some test files that we provide you in order to become familiar with the CDataNet formats and to see how should be what you are going to produce, and also use the other tools that CDataNet is providing, like the Nemo tools to prepare this format, or the Octopus tool to check these formats. So downloading, installing these tools is the first step, and the second step is practice with this tool. Prepare the appropriate metadata and data formats, check them with Nemo, and finally check also with Octopus. And another important step that is required by you is to try to generate metadata for both the data and the cruise summary report, as Dick mentioned during his presentation, because these two elements, the data description and the CSR descriptions, are two core elements for SeaDataNet and for Aquarius. And there is a dedicated tool, the Mikado tool, that will help you to do so. It's very simple. Since you have all metadata in place, with Mikado you can just fill the appropriate, with the Mikado tool you just fill the appropriate fields, and Mikado automatically generate the XML information, the metadata information. What if you need any help during this project, of course, or this process, of course, you can contact us, or we can organize some bilateral events or a wider workshop if it is needed, if you face several issues. But I don't think that it is so difficult, because, as we said, everything is in place. Users of SeaDataNet and the other infrastructures, of course, are using these tools and are applying these approaches. So the same, I'm pretty sure that it will happen also here. Next one, please. It's not only the scientific teams of the TA projects need to work on this. The data centers also will follow all this process very closely. Prior the events, we assign data centers to the projects according to the data type and the lighthouse regions. Dick already showed you the table with the assignment so far. And if you don't already been contacted by your data center, it will be done in the coming period. And the data centers, I am one of the data centers for the Mediterranean cruises. We will review the initial plans and we will contact you in order you to update it and refine the initial data plans and prepare the final one and submit it to the project. We will be in contact with you in all this period, and we have to finalize 2 months prior the events. As I mentioned before, this have to be done before the project start. And I would say the most challenging part, or not challenging, concerning the metadata, the most, let's say, demanding part of the work starts after the events, because the data centers will start following up your full data management plan. It's important, as I mentioned before, you submit the logs with all the necessary metadata to the data centers, because we have to have a complete idea of what kind of data you are collecting and how much, and the most important, how much time you need to process all this. We have to be in close contact after the events with you. 1 month after the project, you have to prepare the cruise summary report and submit it to the SeaDataNet CSR service. This is also very, very simple. Since you have the metadata in place, it's very simple also using the SeaDataNet tool Mikado to submit it also into the system. All this period, you will receive, based on previous practice we had in a previous project from Aquarius, all this period you will be contacted quite often from us, requesting how the process is going, if you need something, in case we don't receive updates from you, in order to keep track of the process closely. And as I said before, we need to know if you have some issues, some difficulties to implement this approach. At least in the events, in the projects that I was assigned, we did not receive so far. We do this. The projects that I'm assigned are in the Black Sea, and together with the other data centers, the Romanian data center, at least so far we did not receive any feedback. That means that you have no problems with the reformatting of the data set, so that's good news. But very, very soon we will contact you asking the data sets back. And if we go to the last slide, just to, in this synoptic page, in this synoptic table, I just wanted to summarize in a very few lines the crucial timelines that are expected for you, from you. As I said before, we need before the project, 2 months before the project, to have finalized the full data management plan, and we strongly advise you practice a little bit with the log application. During the project, of course, it's obvious that you will collect and gather in the metadata information using the summary log application. And then, let's say, the more required, the part with the most requirements is after the cruise, of course, where we need, after 1 month, your cruise summary report. Okay, you have to remember this timeline. We will contact you if we don't receive any news from you. And when it is ready, you as a data center or as a partner, or if you want, you can ask us, the data centers, to submit them to the Aquarius dashboard, data dashboard. And the last row is actually this one that I have mentioned with bold, is actually the one that we need to really put very, very much attention. And we have put here on the last row on the right the timelines that we believe that are feasible from your side. And these timelines are really needed in order to have a smooth implementation of the Aquarius approach and the data management implementation. This is related with the data processing and the transfer and the deposit of your data, the data that are and the metadata you are going to collect within Aquarius. So I want to say that within 2 months after the event, after the collection activity at the field, we need data that are coming from sensors, and the acquisition is automatic and they don't need too much process as other types of data. So within 2 months after the cruise, we would like this sensor data. For example, CTD data. It's not so easy to process them, prepare them, clean them, apply them the quality control that your institute is doing, because you are applying such validation tests, and then send us to the data centers in order to apply a final validation of these data sets and submit them to Aquarius. Of course, we know that laboratory collections, that data that need laboratory analysis, they require more time, of course, to be ready. So we would like to suggest 4 months after the cruise to have finalized also the laboratory work if it's feasible. We know, of course, that many of you have prepared the initial data management plan with an embargo period. We know this case. We have faced this very well in the previous project. But even in this case, we want to stress out that we need this data. The project requires this data. The report to the European Union requires this data also before the end of the Aquarius. So it's important to, in the coming month, to update your initial data management plan to include these timelines into this. And of course, in practice, you implement this step, processing and transfer to Aquarius system. You need to implement this step as soon as possible. This is what I would like to say. If there are some questions or some remarks, I'm happy to, me and the other, of course, speakers concerning their data and their cases, we would be happy to discuss them with the remaining time we have. I see it's 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes. I hope we will manage to address. So I see some questions. Will the presentation be available after the webinar? Yes, of course. The presentation and also the recording will become available into the project, into the Aquarius website. Already the first webinar, also last year, and another recorded presentation concerning fair data, for those who are not very much familiar with what fairness is. These presentations are also already available there under the training hub of the project. I will put the link on the chat so you can check them, and in the same place this webinar also will be available. Okay, thank you, Onan. You put the link there. The next one is there any specific format for a data management document? To my best knowledge, no, there is not format, but the requirement is not a format,
there is a template.
the questions, what is required for you is specific. I mean, there are specific.
Sissy, all the proposals already made an initial data management plan following a template.
Yes.
So it's there.
Yes, it's there, the template, but I mean, they can, what they should reply there, it's just a text that will explain what they are going to, I mean, if this is what I understood from the question. Because yes, the initial, for your project is there, the initial plan. The template is there, but your answers,
That will be reviewed, and then we ask you to maybe
yes,
to improve it.
To improve it, yes, but I mean, what you are
There is
going
a
to
format
include
for
there,
this
it's
in the plan. The data management plan 6.2 has the formats, has the templates.
Yes. I thought we are already familiar with that. Sorry if I've confused you with my answer. Okay. And there is another one. How do I request? This is for you, Dick. How I request a template for using the ad app?
Yeah. I'd say we have a limited number of tablets, so we are not asking everybody now to ask us a tablet because that will not be possible. But it's an Android. It works on Android, so it will not work on indeed on Apple. But those of you that really first try it yourself, let's say if you have already a tablet, but if it doesn't work, let's say just send a message, let's say to me, dick@maris.nl, and then we'll see how we can supply you. But of course, you have to give then your full address where the tablet has to be delivered, and also after the TA event, you have to return that tablet because then somebody else will use it. But like I say, we have not enough tablets for everybody because we have suddenly a whole storm, let's say, of new TA events that were informed to us recently. And also the first three, let's say, they were able to use the app on their own equipment, and that works very nicely.
Okay. I do not see any questions. I don't know if somebody wants to ask something more. Okay, so I think we are almost done. I would like to thank you for your participation. I hope that it was, especially for the new ones, it was useful. And you have all the material and information you need to start thinking and practicing with this. The presentation, as I said, will be available. So we wish you successful activities, data acquisition activities, and next steps of your plans and within your project. So thank you very much.